this brings me to the last thing I want to discuss, and that is one of the things that has kept capitalism alive, this irrational, self-devouring, inhumane, insane system. One thing that's kept it alive, along with the popular democratic struggle that tries to heal it, put it on the right track, regulate it, give some of that back to the people, you know. One of the things that keeps it alive is socialism. Now, it's a hijacked kind of socialism, and a lot of you will say that that's not really socialism. Spending money into a capitalist economy, that's socialism. And I don't agree. But let's just use the term. I mean, our reactionary friends are using the term all the time. They call Barack Obama a socialist. The public treasure is a source of immense plunder by corporate America. Every year, almost $100 billion. Aside from all the bailouts and all the stuff, this new stuff, every regular year, almost $100 billion go to big corporations as direct subsidies, grants and aid, loan guarantees, equity research and development, special tax write-offs, debt write-offs, and so forth. All compliments of U.S. taxpayers. So even if you work for a non-profit, how many people here work for a non-profit? That is a school, something else, right? Okay, does that mean then you're not exploited? You are not exploited, right? Because we talked about the boss and the capital and the worker, and the worker has to work harder, and surplus value goes to the boss and all that. So he could have profits. You work for something that's non-profit, but you still, some of you still feel exploited anyway. Well, you should, because you still are citizens and you still are taxpayers, and it's an enormous amount that goes in taxes. And capitalism, the federal budget is an enormous source of wealth. So it's constantly feeding on the public treasury, billions upon billions. So we should stop thinking of capitalism and socialism as these two epic tides that come, and there's been this clash, and socialism receded, and capitalism has moved up here, and the like. There's a constant interaction and struggle right here in our own society. We have all sorts of socialism here. Is there any way we can get this subtropical climate here? No? Is there air conditioning? Oh, it's a library. No, you can't do that. I used to teach at State University of New York, two different branches, Albany and Stony Brook. And we get into discussions with the students, and they say, but socialism, what is it? How could it work? How could it possibly work? I mean, it's never going to be as good as people doing their own thing consciously and pursuing their own interests and so on. I said, well, you're in a socialist institution. State University of New York. This was back when they didn't have to pay $20,000 tuition, you know, when they could go for a whole year on $1,000 fees or something. I said, the teachers, and I compared SUNY to a number of private schools on Long Island, whose names I won't mention. I said, we compare very rather favorably. The faculty does, its background, its scholarly output, its teaching abilities, and all. The students are not only good, but better than they were in private schools. So this is a socialist institution. What's wrong, do you find? Do you find it suffocating? Do you find it too drab? You've been to Russia, and what about it? Oh, it's very drab. It's drab. We have socialism in the fire department. That wasn't always true. We used to have private fire stations, you know, and they'd go out and compete against each other. Who's going to get to the fire first? Get fist fights. They would loot the houses they were supposed to be saving. Now we have professionalized fire department. That's socialism. How bad is that? We got socialized sanitation departments in some cities, not all. We have socialized police departments. We have public transportation, certain human services. These are the only things that make life bearable. Is that socialism? Free marketeers insist that everything works better in the private sector, and government should be run more like a business. One wonders how that could be possible. I mean, governments deal with complex, conflicting interests and all that, have nothing to do with business in a sense. And exactly what business should the government be running like? Should it be the 50,000 firms that go bankrupt every year? Well, yes, that's what it's or the large, successful corporations which have giant bureaucracies themselves and are recipients of billions of dollars in public subsidies. That regularly, these giant corporations that skirt the law, they pay no taxes, they cater only to paying customers. Do we want government run like the private companies that are controlled by non-elected and sometimes swindling directors who answer to nobody but themselves and a few banks and big investors who vote themselves hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses? If we run government like a business, whatever that means, I say, you hear it all the time, what the hell are you talking about? And who will take care of the costly, non-profit public services that the public and business itself demands? For instance, who would provide the vast sums that the government spends on roads and highways that are required by the automotive and trucking industries? There's socialism subsidizing capitalism, you see. In this instance, is the government a burden on the auto industry, or is it the other way around? Operational expenses are generally less in public bureaucracies than in private organizations. Administrative costs for the government's Medicare program are under 3 cents a dollar. Administrative costs for private health insurance are 26 cents per dollar. More than that, you're right, when you put in the executive salaries and all the other things too. Social Security has been a more reliable and less expensive retirement program than private pension plans. Remember the 401k you had, which is now a 101k? I don't want to joke about other people's misery. That's a big joke. A Roper poll, Roper opinion poll, asked people to estimate the administrative costs of Social Security as a percentage of the benefits they hand out. Well, people have been so brainwashed about government can't do anything right, government can't solve your problems, government is the problem, blah, 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 and these bureaucrats, blah, blah, blah. Conditioned by all of that, that government is inefficient, the respondents guessed that 50% of the operational, of the payout is for operational costs. Actually, it's only 1% spent on administration and Social Security compared to the money they hand out. That's socialism in action. The administrative costs for private insurance are about 13% on annual payments. That's on payouts. Administrative costs at non-profit public hospitals average less than at for-profit private hospitals. Administrative costs for a single-payer health program are a fraction of what the private profit medical insurance bracket costs. That's socialism in action again. Public power utilities owned by local governments offer rates averaging 20% less than those charged by private power companies. That's socialism in action. In 4 years after it was created in 1998, public utility, the Long Island Power Authority in New York cut rates 20% and saved customers an estimated $2.1 billion. Public utilities in Palo Alto and Los Angeles offered rates that were 20 to 40% less than what was charged by PG&E elsewhere in California. Is that true? You have public utility? They're trying to milk it and twist it around.